Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can everyone hear us? If you can hear us, please do comment.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, Sheikh. Very good. Just waiting on, there have about 17 people waiting here. If I can just get any one of you. Yes. Okay, very good. So we do have a confirmation that people are listening to us here, alhamdulillah, and they can hear you. Sheikh, so before we begin, inshallah ta'ala, I do want to let everyone know that this is a halaqa that's happening at the Islamic Institute of Toronto. It's on our YouTube. Please do share this page, this live stream to those who would be benefiting bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. It is Halaqa is about confronting the spiritual plague with Sheikh Abdullah Hakim quick. And Sheikh Abdullah, if you can hear me, you can begin inshallah ta'ala.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa usalli wa usallam ala sayyid al-awwaleen wal akhirin nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Wa ba'd.
Sheikh, if you can also begin your video, sorry.
Okay.
You can begin your video inshallah as well.
Okay.
Yes, now. Barakallah fi Sheikh. Jazakallah khair. Fadl.
Praise are due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad, the master of the first and the last, and upon his family, his companions, and all those who call to his way and establish his sunnah to the day of judgment. My beloved brothers and sisters, I begin with the greeting words of the righteous. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, this is another opportunity for us in these strange times that we are living in to reflect upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to reflect upon this world, reflect upon ourselves, and inshallah try to chart out a way forward. Allah Azza wa Jal created this earth, the heavens, the universe for a purpose, and everything is flowing according to what it was supposed to do. We have to realize that there is nothing happening by chance, and that this pandemic that the world is in, this coronavirus, this COVID-19 that is sweeping through the land, it is part of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what this earth would go through at this particular point in time. The earth has gone through a number of changes from its inception. And scientists have even been able to see and isolate 5 great extinctions. These extinctions happening over 400 million years were due to tectonic plate change on the earth, asteroid impact, carbon dioxide increase. There are a number of reasons why huge parts of life on earth were actually made extinct. And so at some point there were invertebrate animals, there were dinosaurs, there were hominids, there were different creatures on the earth that literally vanished by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the 6th extinction that we understand, and this is being caused by human beings. And what is happening is that the mammals, birds, are being destroyed in huge numbers. And this is coming about throughout the world because of what people have done. And we can see, in a sense, that this is this pandemic that we are going through, this crisis, is a type of check. It is a type of reset, you could say, where Allah Azza wa Jal is changing the state of affairs in order to give us as human beings, because we have a choice, one way or the other, giving us a chance to make the right choice, but also giving his planet Earth a chance to breathe. And so it is reported that the sky is clear in many parts of the world, that the thousands of airplanes emitting the gases into the atmosphere are not flying in the way they used to fly. That the cruise ships, that the huge boats and destroyers not moving around like they used to move around. The vehicles in the cities of the world are not polluting the atmosphere. And so it is reported in Los Angeles, they have some of the cleanest air that they've ever recorded. In New Delhi and cities like this covered with smog, New Delhi, they can see the Himalayas. And so it's a check that is going on. And the earth is literally breathing now. Animals are coming back. Animals are reclaiming their land space. And so as we stay isolated, as we find ourselves in this pandemic, we have to realize that it is by the will of Allah. And Muslims, we find ourselves in war-torn zones. This pandemic, as terrible as it is, did not change what is happening in Yemen. It did not change what is happening in India when the Muslims are being driven out of their homes. The Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar, Palestinian Muslims in Gaza, the Syrian Muslims, the Iraqis, the Central African Republic. This pandemic did not change the drought in East Africa. The locusts are still moving. It did not change the floods that are hitting many parts of the world. It did not change the earthquakes. It did not change the droughts that are going on. What it did is wake up human beings because, in a sense, it was a more personal type of test. It was a fitna, it was a trial, a calamity that struck us as a human race in a way that we would have to wake up. And the word fitna is so important. The plural is fitan. And these are the tribulations, these are the trials, these are the tests that human beings would go through in large numbers as we go closer and closer to the day of resurrection. And a fitna, when you look at the essence of the word itself, you could say that the metal was put to a fitna when it was smelted. And so literally to clean gold and silver, they put it to the fire. In order to tan hide, they put it to the fire. And so a fitna puts human beings through a test. And many times that test is a hot test in order that we would be purified in the same way that the metal is purified, that the hide is purified. Human beings also need to be purified. So in this state of the fitna, in this condition, we naturally, as weak creations, we cry out to the creator of the heavens and the earth. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his last testament, Al-Quran, has revealed to us very clearly what would be happening under the fitna and what would be the way out. And Allah told us in Surah At-Talaq, in verse 2 and 3, in a section of this mighty revelation, Allah informed us, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَالِغُ أَمْرِهِ قَدْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدْرًا. And whoever keeps his duty to Allah, Allah will make a way out for him and provide for him from where he knows not. And whoever depends on Allah, Allah will be sufficient for him. Surely Allah will reach his purpose, and he has made a limit for all things. This, in a sense, is the banner that I keep in front of me as we are moving through the COVID, as we are going through this pandemic. That really, the two key ways out of it is taqwa and tawakkul ala Allah. That we should have the consciousness of Allah, we should fear Allah and hope in the mercy of Allah. And if we have this taqwa, if we have this understanding, then Allah will make a way out for us. A makhraj will appear from a place that we never knew, and provisions will appear. And people are seeing this happen as the whole world is changing now, as attitudes are changing, as people are changing. And also tawakkul ala Allah. And that is dependence. And the Prophet ﷺ made it very clear. He told his companions, tie your camel and depend on Allah. So it is a balance. It is a balance between the dependence on Allah, the dependence like a child depending upon its mother. The dependence, one of the highest level of dependence would be like a corpse, a dead body, which has total dependence upon the person who is washing it. But at the same time, our Sharia shows us, our way of life shows us that this is balanced by taking precautions. And so the believers take precautions during this time while they depend on Allah. And if that happens, Allah will be sufficient. And the beautiful part of this verse, it said, Inna Allah balighu amri. Allah will reach his purpose. So remember this, as we see the curve, and they say it's rising to its high point. Now they're flattening the curve. Allah will reach his purpose. Allah will flatten the curve when it's time. And in different parts of the world, that curve will be flattened at different points. Because Allah has made a limit for everything. And so, yes, there is a limit for the COVID-19, for this pandemic that we are going through. And so as we cry for change, as we reach out, we're in this purification. Allah told us in Surah Al-Ra'd, verse 11, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah will not change the condition of a people till they change that which is in themselves. Think about this. No change. So you can build the masjids, you can put on Islamic clothes, you can eat halal food, you can have all the physical trappings that you want. But unless there is an internal change, what is inside of us, then Allah told us he will not change our conditions. And so we want to look at this phenomena. We're spending a lot of time on the external plague, and we are learning all over the world the importance of isolation. We are also learning the importance of social distancing. We are learning the importance of washing our hands. We are learning the importance of seeing limits, not just seeing a human being as a person you can walk through, but respect the limit of all people. Therefore, you find it is, in a sense, an unwritten law that you don't shake hands. Muslims did not shake hands following the Prophet ﷺ, male and female, unless they were family, because this is the prophetic way. You are entering that person's space when you're touching their body. You are entering that person's space when you are staring at them. You are entering their space when you open up their private book or when you peep in their window. So limits are being prescribed. And this is a mercy that Allah Azza wa Jal teaches people limits. And this is the external parts. So we're learning how to function under a pandemic, in a plague. And the Prophet ﷺ showed us very clearly, a sick person should not go into the presence of a person who is well. Stay out. Don't go onto that person. If you are in the land of a pandemic, stay there. If you're not in the land, then isolate. So these concepts were already there. Now we want to look at the internal conditions. This is not the external plague. This is the internal plague. Because inside of the human beings, there is something that is going on. And that is the study of the heart, al-qalb. And the Prophet ﷺ said in one of his authentic hadith, that verily Allah does not look at your bodies. Inna Allah la yanduru ila ajsamikum wa la ila suwarikum walakin yanduru ila qulubikum wa a'malikum. That verily Allah does not look at your bodies nor at your appearances, but he looks at your hearts and your deeds. In another tradition, in part of this tradition, the Prophet ﷺ said, wa inna fil jasadi mudgha إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. that surely in the body there is a lump of flesh, which if it is in good repair, all the body will be in good condition, and which if it is corrupt, the whole body will be corrupted. Truly, it is the heart. So what is this heart that we are talking about? Is it just the lump of flesh? The Prophet ﷺ was reported to have told one of his companions who asked him about bir, about righteousness. He told him, Istafti qalbak, ask your heart. On some occasions, he would say very clearly to the followers when they're lining up in prayers, shoulder to shoulder, come close. Do not let the evil one come between you. Close your ranks. Why? What is it? He said, come close so your hearts will not be divided. So think about this. When you're shoulder to shoulder to a person, is your shoulder touching the heart? No. So he's talking about something else. And this really is a really important concept. It is our conscience. We used to say in America, always let your conscience be your guide. What is the conscience? It's not something that you can see, but it's something that is inside. And I recognize the importance of the internal Muslim. I saw this in practice a number of years back when we formed a Hilal committee. And this was a committee that was made up, we were just in Sha'ban, similar to the time right now, going toward Ramadan, and we knew that there'd be different opinions, and it's almost like there's more than one moon in the sky. So we came together and we got all the persuasions and we formed a committee. And we started the month on time. And alhamdulillah, we felt the unity, we felt closeness. And as the month went by, people started changing, their attitudes started changing. So by the end of the month, we broke into different groups. And I realized that the problem was not ikhtilaf al-matali'. It was not the difference in the horizons, as some of the scholars would say. The problem was ikhtilaf al-qulub. It was the difference in the hearts. That's what it was. That because of something inside of the individual, they broke apart, not because of Sharia. Islamic law and jurisprudence did not put us apart. It gives us ways of doing things, sometimes multiple ways, but it is what is inside of us that breaks us apart. And so that is the heart. That is what we are looking at now. And there are so many different traditions in light. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the 22nd chapter in verse 46, Allah tells us, do they not travel through the land so that their hearts may thus learn wisdom? أَفَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَتَكُونُ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا. See how it's being used. Do they not travel to the land so that their hearts may thus learn wisdom? And it continues, and their ears may thus learn to hear. Truly, it is not eyes that are blind, but their hearts, which are in their chests. لكن تعمى القلوب التي في الصدور. This is a beautiful verse because it is showing us, Allah is showing us that in traveling through the earth, the heart gains wisdom. Now, this is different than what we commonly know to be the heart, because we look at the heart as merely this lump of flesh. But the verse is saying, when you're traveling through the land, then aql, intelligence, which we normally put to the brain. But no, in traveling through the land, the heart will gain intelligence. The ears will learn to hear, because it's not the eyes that are blind, but it is the heart. And so that shows the importance of this concept. And we need to consider it. We want to, for the next few periods, discuss the heart and some of the issues, because this is the key to the spiritual internal plague. And that is what we need to really come close to at this point in time. What a lot of people didn't realize before is that the body is made up in a different way than what we thought. We used to think that the body is a brain, and then the brain is like a computer, and it's giving information to the heart. But the reality is, and scientists have shown us, that the cardiovascular system is one of the first to form in the embryo. So it's really the heart area, which is one of the first areas that is forming with the young child. And heart cells form the heart and they pulsate. And these cells are like nothing else. So the heart is made up of living cells, which is a type of life force, which is pumping, pumping, pumping. The heart is 5,000 times stronger than the brain. Think about this. And if you think of a human being, if you think about what is going on, because we'll go to sleep and our brain, in a sense, slows down and it shuts down. Sometimes you might have a dream, but generally, your brain is taking a rest, but your heart is pumping. Your heart can never take a rest. And so it is constantly pumping, constantly pumping. It is the life force that is coming. It is really the door to the soul, a ruh, which is something that nobody knows. So the qualities of the heart, we have to realize, even the physical heart itself has got some amazing qualities. The heart has a brain of its own, an organized network of nerve cells and plexi. You could be brain dead and you're still alive. Every cell in the body is permeated with life force from the heart. So the brain itself, literally, or the heart itself, has a brain. Again, we used to think of this computer that's in our heads that's running everything. No, your heart has got its own brain. It's got its nerve cells. It's even when the brain turns off, it's still alive because that ruh, that soul is connected to the life force, which manifests itself through the heart. And so even on a physical level, this is a deep concept that we need to understand. And human beings, we're actually not just this physical human being. We are really arwah, we are souls. Our body will drop off to the earth, but yet there is a type of energy, if I can use this term. That is the soul. It's the ultimate force that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has breathed into the human being, which has given us life. When that force leaves the body, then the body is dead. But what's interesting? There's an electromagnetic field that the heart is putting out, and it's been measured to be about 3 to 4 feet around the body. It's a type of light-based energy, and it has emotions in it. This is interesting because I can remember being very sensitive. I've always been a very sensitive person. I've noticed some individuals, when people would come in the room, and I would sense this myself, and I noticed other people, if somebody was really evil or really negative, and that person would enter the room, I would feel coldness. I feel something negative in my body, wondering, why am I feeling this negativity? It's a literally a light-based energy that individual was giving off, and I was sensitive to it. That same feeling we have, for instance, when you do something good to an individual, when you give sadaqah, when you help that elderly person across the street, it's a warm feeling that you get. It's an emotion. So positivity has an emotion. You could say it's an electromagnetic emotion. Negativity also has an emotion. And so that electricity, that power, which we are gaining, negative or positive, throughout our life, it reaches a climax with death. So that when the physical body leaves and the soul is there, this energy of the soul, the power that Allah has put in, what stays with it is the positive energy and the negative energy that we have gained in this world. And we describe this for our human senses as our deeds, our good deeds and our bad deeds. And this is where the intention actually comes in from the hat. And this is something which is interesting. It's been studied by human beings from the beginning of the time. You have to remember that the Prophet ﷺ has shown us very clearly that prophets and messengers have been sent to every nation, that they would worship Allah and stay away from false deities. Every nation has had a messenger. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed this to us very clearly. And so prophets came to China, prophets came to India, prophets came to the Americas, to Europe, to Africa. In the ancient times, one of the most organized early ancient societies was ancient Egypt. And I had the opportunity to go in the pyramids, to go below the pyramids, into the chambers and the tombs, and to read some of the hieroglyphics, to see the images that were there. I was shocked to compare my knowledge of Islam coming from Quran and Sunnah to what I saw in the early times. Remember, the ancient Egyptians, and now they're writing this information around 3000 BC, 2000 BC. Prophets and messengers came in those times. They did not have the Sharia, they did not have the Islamic law in the way that we have, but they had a Sharia which is adapted to their society. And we have a Sharia which came through the last Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. And so in the ancient times, look what they wrote. And this gives you a visual image of something that they wrote a few thousand years ago. The ancient Egyptians believed that the judgment will happen in the hereafter, beginning with the heart. And so every individual, when they die, their judgment starts to begin. And when the judgment happens, there is a scale. And on one side of the scale is a heart, and on the other side is a feather. And if your heart is heavier than the feather in sin, then you will be punished. And I thought about this because, the Prophet ﷺ said that the place of the intention, mahal al-qalb, mahal al-niyya al-qalb. He said the place of the intention is the heart. And he told us also, innamal a'malu bin niyat wa innamal likulli imri'in ma nawa. Your deeds are based on your intentions, and every person will get exactly what he intends. So that intention is crucial. Look what the Egyptians said. You intend evil, and that's what's going to be on your scale. So they literally knew that the heart was going to be involved in this, that intention was crucial in the judgment day. And so the heart of the individual, that internal movement that people have to go through, this is the essence of our study. We need to know about the internal diseases in the same way that the scientists are studying the COVID-19, and they say Nova COVID. This is a new one. So it's different than the other ones. It's different in how it moves. It's different in how it affects people. They're trying to understand it, to be able to develop means to we can protect ourselves. The Prophet ﷺ actually gave us a mean to protect ourselves. He told us over 1400 years ago, take the black seed. Alaykum bihabbat as-sawda, fa innaha dawa'in min kulli da' illa al-maut. He said, you must take the black seed because it will cure you from every disease except death. The doctors found out that the quality of the black seed is that it builds your immune system. And it is the immune system of the individual which fights off disease. Ultimately, with the COVID-19, it is our immune systems. And that is the reason why elderly people, why people with pre-existing conditions, where their immunity is down, where they are more than likely to succumb to the disease. And so the black seed gives us a strong immunity. And so we have that immunity. We study the disease, we try to understand how it affects us and what we can do to defend ourselves against it. And if we're struck with it, how can we come out of it? literally, that science was looked at internally. And the great scholars of Islam, many of them who were blessed, Sheikh Hassan al-Basri, Imam al-Ghazali, Sidi Ahmed Zarruq of Morocco, Sheikh Uthman Danfodio of Nigeria and the desert area. There are many different names that we can bring up. Scholars of the internal, scholars of the heart. And we want to look at the importance of this because remember what Allah said. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah will not change the condition of a people till they change that which is in themselves. So we need to take this time while we are isolated to look within ourselves, and especially with Ramadan coming along, to recognize that the essence of Ramadan is not just physical fast, it is taqwa. It is to gain that consciousness of Allah. And so this is an opportunity for us. And so the scholars of the heart identified amrad al-qulub, diseases of the heart. They identified certain key diseases. And I want to show you a few of these diseases. There is kibar, which is pride. There is ghadab, kathratul ghadab. This is like this anger, this intense negative feeling. There is hasad. There is envy and jealousy. There is riyah, where you are showing off in worship in order to gain the respect and the love of other individuals. There is ujub, which is conceit. There are many different diseases of the heart. And it's crucial for us to understand these diseases and to realize what happens to us when we are struck with the disease. And so I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be able to look at some of these diseases with you. Not just tonight, we have entered the door. This is the madkhal. This is the entrance into the area of the heart. You can say that the heart, in a sense, is like a beautiful fort. And this fort is protecting us. The soul is connected to it. And we have to protect our fort. But there are different issues that can weaken the fort. And in our bodies itself, in our spiritual body, which in a sense is our spiritual fort, our taqwa gives us the strength. Our tawakkul ala Allah gives us that dependence where Allah will be sufficient. And then we have a strong internal self, but weaknesses come. The same way malaria strikes us, cholera strikes us, polio strikes us, SARS, the MERS, the different coronas. The same way our physical body is struck with disease, our spiritual body is also struck with disease. So in our next class, inshallah, we want to look at some of these spiritual diseases in order to understand the spiritual plague. Think about it. Do some study of it. And next week, I want to go over this with you and to hear back from you, from some of your questions. These are some of the points that we are looking at. And next week, inshallah, we also want to look at some of the entrances that the shaitan uses, special entrances to come to the hearts. This is information that is not necessarily privy to the public. And I want to share this information with you, inshallah, that Allah will help us to clean up what is inside of ourselves, that Allah would give us that ability to clean our hearts, to purify our souls. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept us. May Allah azza wa jal protect us and protect our community. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy and forgive all those who have died from the corona plague, from this COVID-19. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept these individuals as shaheed. Our doctors are dying. Our nurses are dying. Some of our individuals in our community are dying. May Allah accept them with the rank of shaheed and give them protection from the punishment of the grave. Give them protection from the fitna and trial of the day of judgment. give them protection from the fitna and trial going over the sirat, whether they go to paradise or hell. May Allah help them to go across in the blinking of an eye. May Allah help them to enter paradise in the body of a green bird and fly around in Jannah even before the day of judgment. May Allah accept them and forgive them. May Allah accept us, the weakness that we have shown in our lives. May Allah forgive us for all of this weakness and help us during this pandemic. And may Allah have mercy upon this ummah and give us that kalima, that our last word would be kalima la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa li sa'ili muslimina min kulli dhanbin istaghfiru innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Wassalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. At this moment, for everyone who's actually joining us and who's on the online, please, I'd ask you to go ahead, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do press choose the notification icon so you actually get notified if we upload any sort of videos or any live streams. We do go live every single day, pretty much except for Saturday, where we have classes and halaqas happening at 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock p.m. Toronto time, and at 11:30 on Sunday with Sheikh Ahmed Kurti as well. If anybody has any questions now for the Sheikh, inshallah, we can answer them. Just wait to see if there's anyone else who has any sort of questions to ask.
If not, what we could do is we could have them to send the questions in, and we can have them to answer for the next class, because we are coming very close to Salat al-Maghrib now.
Maghrib time.
Was there any question?
Perfect time, inshallah. So it doesn't seem like there are any questions that are happening right now on the YouTube, inshallah. If there are any questions that happen after we upload this video, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we will make sure we address them, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. May Allah Azza wa bless you. May Allah Azza wa grant you Jannah, inshallah. May Allah give you a prolonged life, inshallah, based on, obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.